Mojang have just released the Minecraft Copper Age, and it definitely seems that with these drop systems, they're trying to give previously useless features in Minecraft a new sense of life. And I'm pretty sure everyone would agree with this Copper Age update, copper certainly has a lot more uses than it once had. And let's be honest here, the name of this update summarizes it perfectly, because pretty much everything that was changed in this update had something to do with copper, whether that be tools, armor, chains, or even lighting. The addition that probably most people cared about was the fact that Copper Golem finally got added to the game. This was our first addition from the Minecraft mob vote losers to be added, and I'm pretty sure everyone's really happy with it. Of course, with so many varieties of copper, there are bound to be some more important features than others, so today we are going to go and rank everything that was added in the Copper Age drop. To save you a lot of time in this video, we are going to be generalizing stuff. So for example, we are not going to rate oxidized stuff different from non-oxidized stuff, and the same with armor. We're not going to go through each plate of armor. Armor will just be rated generally, and that goes for all the tools as well. Two items which we're going to start with, because I don't think they're actually worthy of putting on the list, is the copper nugget and the copper horse armor. I don't really care about either of these. The nugget's cool, it's useful in the game. The copper horse armor looks awful, so that's why we're not going to really add them to the list. So continuing on from worst to best, at the bottom of the list I do have the new lightning rods. Lightning rods of course were already in the game, but they can now oxidize. I don't really think this is a big change, and I don't think many people will use the oxidized features. I certainly won't, and it's my opinion on this list, so there's not really much to say other than the lightning rods are bottom and holding up the rest of the list. Two items which are very similar, but next up is the copper bars and also the copper chains. I would rank the copper chains just above the copper bars, but that is only because I use chains a lot more than the bars. These are pretty cool, and I could see them being used. It's a nice cheaper way to get some more texture to your builds without necessarily using up your iron deposits, and the fact it oxidizes does allow some different, unique, kind of older, worn down builds. So I think from a builder's perspective, this is brilliant, but there's a lot more features on this list which definitely are higher than both of these. Next up, and one of the personal favorite items, especially for Halloween, is the copper torch. The copper torch is of course the new green torch. With this, it allows an entire new range of lighting possibilities, especially with haunted mansions. You could also combine the green torch and also the redstone torch to create green and red pattern lighting, which would be great for Christmas and winter style builds. Overall, again, it's nothing really too special, and the lighting does look really cool though, and that is why it's higher than the chains and the bars. Despite it not really adding much to the texture of a build, it does create some great lighting. One item which doesn't really add much unless you have the golem is the copper chest. Of course, it still looks good though, and it does have some decent features, and that is why it's next up. But of course, without the copper golem, it's pretty useless unless you want an orange chest that does oxidize in your house. Of course, I still could see this to be great for building. If you know how to utilize copper very well and you want worn down buildings, I do think a lot of these copper items for building is going to be pretty good. From experience, the chest seems to oxidize pretty fast. I'm not sure if there's a different rate on this. I have not researched that, but from the time I have played on this update so far, my copper chests are oxidizing extremely fast in comparison to the blocks. Of course, you can wax these though to stop that happening, and it still is pretty cool. I probably won't use it on any of the style of my builds. Next up was an item I was very disappointed with, and that is the copper lantern. The reason I'm disappointed with this is because no matter its oxidized level, it does not actually affect its lighting level, and I do think Minecraft/Mojang really missed a trick with not changing the lighting level despite its oxidization. For example, when it's more oxidized, it should in fact change the light level, and this isn't totally far-fetched when you consider the fact that when the copper golem is fully oxidized, he stops working, and also other copper items are affected by oxidization levels. So the lantern, in my opinion, should have less light level given out when it gets to them later oxidized levels, and maybe this is a feature we'll see in a Minecraft update in the future, because I do think they are missing a trick big time with it, and because of that, that is why it is so low. But overall, I love lanterns in the game. They're one of my favorite things to add to a build, and I could 100% see myself using the copper lantern in future builds. Making it to the top 5 with an item I'll never use because I play on forever worlds, but copper armor is a great feature. I started a hardcore world last year, and all I could find at the start of the game was tons of copper, and actually being able to utilize that on armor or tools would have been brilliant, and that is why the copper armor has made it to the top 5, because I think for players who are always starting new worlds, this is going to add something extra, because you're not necessarily going to find iron straight away, especially with the high levels of copper that is found around the Minecraft world, and the levels that you can find it are a lot more common. On top of this being better than leather, in fact, it's probably easier to find copper than it is leather, because you'll have to go around looking for cows, and without looting 3, you're not likely to get enough leather to get full set of armor, and you may as well go mining because you're likely to get stone and other tools which would better utilize your time. Therefore, copper armor was a brilliant addition, and that leads me on to the top 4 because it's closely followed by copper tools, which in my opinion have more uses than the armor, because at the start of a game you are going to want to be resource gathering and not necessarily in PvP or combat with enemies. Therefore, that is why I've ranked copper tools higher, but most of my reasons for having copper tools this high up on the list is shared with the copper armor, and therefore I'm not going to repeat myself. Down to the top 3 was the copper golem. The copper golem is this low just because I personally don't think he's that useful. He may look cool and he's great to have running around, but his lack of height reach, which don't get me wrong, makes total sense when the guy is the height of a hobbit.
I'm going on an adventure!
But it does mean that a lot of storage systems aren't equipped to handle him or to utilize him to his maximum abilities. Also, I don't think he adds anything up in addition to an auto farm. Therefore, I don't think many people will actually use the copper golem unless they want to see something really cool running around their houses. Don't get me wrong, I am not hating on the golem in any way. I understand why he's programmed not to reach very far, but the fact he only looks for 10 chests before dumping something in a random chest, in my opinion, makes no sense, because most people are going to have more than 10 chests or 10 double chests in their storage units, especially with the ever expanding block capacity in this game. Storage systems are massive, especially if you're playing a long-term world. Controversially, the copper golem statue though goes into number 2. I personally love having the heads in the game, and the copper golem statue I think is going to be a really cool addition. And hear me out here before you judge me.
Let him...
The fact that you can do secret little passcode doors, because you can use the detector block for redstone doors, you can change his position and the way he's facing, and then you can have a secret little door. I think that is brilliant and really adds something unique to builds. Of course, you can do this to the armor stand, but it doesn't look quite as good as the copper golem statue. So for me personally, and again, this is my list, the copper golem statue I actually like more than the copper golem itself, just because of the decorative builds, and because I'm more of a builder in the game, the statue itself adds more for me. Which leads me on to why number 1 is the shelf. I've been crying out for a vertical slab, like pretty much every Minecraft player, for years. In fact, since I've started playing the game over a decade ago. A vertical slab would have made so many of my builds over the years easier, and this is, I guess, the closest we're going to get for the time being, and therefore the shelf is number 1. I don't really think I'll ever use the shelf for hanging things up. Maybe I will in a future build, but I'll be mainly using it for vertical slabs, and I can't wait to see the builds I come up with over the next couple of years, just for being able to use this block. That is my list. I hope I've not missed any features. I think I've definitely covered the main ones. Of course, people are going to disagree with me. That is why we're all allowed an opinion, and that is a brilliant thing about them. So please leave me your lists in the description below and give me your opinion. I'd love to hear it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy Minecraft.